Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I am Liz. I work at Teikametrics. I've got Becky Trowbridge with me from Ecom Engine. Say hi, Becky.
Hi.
I see that some of you are rolling in rather rapidly right now, so we're going to wait just a minute before we get started. For those of you who are here, we can go over some housekeeping items. This session is being recorded. It will be emailed to you if you registered for this webinar. Any resources that we share will be included in that email that goes out to you. And other than that, please feel free to ask questions as frequently as you would like. There's a Q&A question section part of GoToWebinar, and we can just queue those up. We like a conversational style. Becky and I have been doing this together for a long time. So we would love for you to join in the conversation. I still see the numbers ticking up pretty quickly. So welcome those of you who have just joined us. We're going to get started at about 1:02 p.m. Eastern. So we've got about another minute. If anybody wants to say hi, hit the chat. If anybody wants to ask a question ahead of time, feel free to do that so that we can queue that up for the appropriate part of the presentation. Again, this session is being recorded. It will be emailed to you if you registered for this webinar, along with any significant resources that we share. All right, it's about 1:02. We're going to get started. So today we're going to talk about how we like a little play of words. Hindsight is 2020, but this year we actually have hindsight on 2020. I asked Becky way before Q4 ever started, do you think you're going to have some data on product reviews? Because I think that would be really, really interesting to see if there are any trends in product reviews over Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, those special Amazon days. So we're going to take a look at that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our findings from our studies and tell you about another special event that's happening next week. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Again, a little bit of housekeeping. If you've got questions, put them in the question section of GoToWebinar and we'll answer them as soon as we can. The session is being recorded. We will email it to you. Don't worry, but we would love for you to participate and ask as many questions as you'd like. So I'm Liz. I am the e-commerce marketing manager at Teikametrics. I do webinars, help with partnerships, write blog posts, recording video series, doing all kinds of stuff. Becky, my friend from Ecom Engine, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Becky. I work with Ecom Engine. I'm the content strategist, and I've been there for about 4.5 years. So product reviews are definitely front of mind for me all the time.
Yes, they are, and she knows a lot about them. So a little bit about Teikametrics. If you don't know us, we optimize 6 billion's worth of transactions for the largest brands on Amazon. We also optimize ads on Walmart. We're working on lots and lots of cool new things for our upcoming Flywheel 2.0. I will give you information on how to register for early access to that after the seminar. And then Becky, tell us about Ecom Engine.
Sure. So Ecom Engine, a lot of people know us because of Feedback 5, which is our flagship tool. We also have other software, including Restock Pro. So Feedback 5 is feedback and review management software. It works with both buyer-seller messaging and the request to review messaging system, which we'll get into a little bit later. Available in those 16 marketplaces that you see in flags there on your screen. And Restock Pro, we recently expanded to 6 new marketplaces. So to handle Brexit inquiries, all of Europe is now covered with Restock Pro, as well as Australia. And that's a really awesome tool for profit management, inventory forecasting, purchase orders, your shipments, creating stickers and labels. A lot of people really like our functionality for printing FBA labels. And you can also create kits or bundles with Restock Pro. So it's a really cool tool. If you'd like to learn more about it, feel free to email me. I think Liz gives out my contact info at the end. Yeah, we make automation software designed to make your life easier and just streamline your daily operations. So that's Ecom Engine.
So just to go over our agenda and to say hi, Leah. Leah said hi to us, so say hi to Leah. We're going to talk a little bit about Q4 2020 because whoa, was it weird. Some fulfillment trends that both Becky and I have seen in the reseller space and in the brand space. Ecom Engine has some data on orders and product reviews. Becky's going to talk a little bit about product reviews, and that's going to queue up nicely the guest post that she's going to be posting for us pretty soon, because people still need guidance on how to properly get Amazon product reviews without getting in trouble with Amazon, because it's still very possible to do that. Amazon's got a ton of new guidelines, some new rules. Some of them are bummers. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we found in our analysis of Q4 and the special holidays of Q4, and then sort of tease out a webinar that Andrew Weber is going to do next week that's going to deep dive into that data. So I'm going to encourage y'all to sign up for that. I know I'll be there. So Becky, was it really the biggest Q4 yet?
It was. We're still waiting on Amazon's official earnings report, of course, but they did share a really great link on their blog, which I will post in the chat before I forget. But they went ahead and just released some really interesting data about, oh goodness, okay, we'll send that out later. They released some interesting data about Q4. There were more than 1.5 billion toys, home products, beauty and personal care products, and electronics sold. So those are kind of the hot commodities every Q4. This year, some things were different. They had a dedicated support small business storefront on Amazon. I don't know if some of you participated in that. I'd love to hear how it went. So basically, Amazon was encouraging buyers to purchase from small businesses on Amazon. And I think they're just really trying to build up independent businesses and brands that are selling on Amazon. In addition to, obviously, we know with Prime Day, some of the most popular products are always Amazon's themselves. This year we had October Prime Day. That was definitely strange. It was really big. I was kind of uncertain when Amazon said that they were pushing it. And then it was kind of like in the industry, we were like, well, when is it going to happen? Is it going to be September? Is it going to be, when they said October, I was like, oh man, Q4 Prime Day seems like it's going to be really stressful. But this year's 48-hour event actually increased sales projected by Digital Commerce 360. It was projected to be $3 billion higher than last year's July Prime Day, or 2019's July Prime Day. So Prime Day was definitely, it kicked off the holiday season and then it just never stopped. And I'm sure a lot of you felt that because you probably feel like you're just now catching your breath. Amazon said that worldwide sales increased over 50% for small and medium-sized businesses compared to 2019. Again, we still don't have any definitive data on that, but I'm sure that Amazon knows what they're talking about behind the scenes there. And then American small businesses sold nearly 1 billion products during the 2020 holiday season on Amazon storefronts. And then those images down there are just some of the hottest products from this holiday season. So obviously the air fryer, the new voice control Fire Stick was a big one. But I thought it was cool that some retro toys came back. So in addition to the Light Bright, we also had like Jenga. A lot of those classic games were really popular.
That's
so toys
awesome.
and games still huge category.
We saw some amazing trends in toys and games too. And Colleen's here. Hi, Colleen.
Hey,
She
Colleen.
posted a link in the question for the article that Becky was talking about. I posted it in the chat. We'll also include that in the recap that goes out to you guys. So don't worry about that right now. So let's talk a little bit about fulfillment, because we saw some pretty wonky things going on. What did you guys see was like the biggest pain point with fulfillment, other than the fact that, you know, Amazon put a throttle when COVID started, saying, look, we need essential items. But as the holiday rolled out, what were you seeing?
It was really interesting. So as Liz mentioned, early in 2020, we saw sellers having to shift to merchant fulfilled really rapidly. So Restock Pro supports FBA inventory management, and that's it. So we saw a lot of our sellers moving to more of a hybrid and shifting more of their focus to merchant fulfilled, just to make sure they're still getting those orders out the door. And then it was interesting because by the end of the year, it really shifted around to FBA was the winning if you could get your inventory into the fulfillment center, which was definitely an issue for a lot of sellers. I know there were changes to storage limits. Amazon had some restrictions, especially early on with COVID. They were only wanting essential items and like hot sellers coming into the fulfillment centers. So I know staying in stock was a challenge for a lot of you this holiday season, but for the people that could stay in stock at the fulfillment centers, that was really the game changer because UPS and the USPS had a lot of trouble. They were really overwhelmed. I'm sure on social media, I kept seeing these pictures of the warehouses just stacked to the ceiling with boxes that were waiting to be delivered. And Amazon, that last mile delivery, the fulfillment processes that they've set up is really working well. It was really a good test for their system, and I think we're going to see even more expansion. I've noticed they've recently purchased some planes, and I think that's going to become even more of a game changer for Amazon compared to a lot of these other marketplaces.
We saw a lot
There
of
was
our
something else
brands
I was going to say there.
move to a hybrid model too. A lot of our brands, just as a matter of course, do a merchant fulfilled version. But we saw people that were freaking out about their inventory performance index score because Amazon just bumped that requirement up just a little bit right at 0 hour. So that was super fun for a lot of people. And I did see toward the end, into the holidays, FBA working out a lot better than it had been before. But
Yeah,
I know that people have been really kind of looking at their supply chain and thinking, okay, well, if it happens again, if the virus rears up again, if there are restrictions again, what's going to be our game plan? And how do we get our brands out front so that people still have demand for our items while they're staying at home, while they're quarantined? Because buyer behavior
right.
has changed a whole lot. So that is in favor of a lot of people that are selling in the e-commerce space, but it's still a challenge to figure out your fulfillment and how to win at it because it's a constantly moving target. So
Yeah,
I'd be
it
curious to
absolutely
hear
is.
from you guys. Definitely. Like, what did you see? What pain points did you have? So let's cue that up for the Q&A at the end and see if we can't solve some problems for you. All right, this is
And I
a fun
remembered,
graph. Oh, you did? Go ahead.
yeah, so I was just going to say that Amazon actually had a filter by Christmas option so that people could make sure that the item they were picking was going to arrive before Christmas, and they were the only place that was able to guarantee that. So that really made a difference for buyers, I think, during the
I
holiday
had
season.
two things
But
that didn't make it, but that was out of like 25 things. So I think that's a pretty good statistic.
yeah,
Speaking of
especially for last
statistics,
year.
tell me about this graph.
Yeah, so this probably isn't surprising to you all, the top 3 days for Amazon orders in Q4, but we did think it was interesting to see the percentage increase above the average daily order volume. So Prime Day was 78% higher than an average day in Q4. Black Friday was only 67%, which kind of surprised me. But then again, I feel like Amazon and a lot of other retailers released Black Friday sales so early this year that it was kind of a steady trickle leading up in that week before Thanksgiving. And then Cyber Monday was huge with 81% higher than average order volumes. So I know there was a lot of encouragement to get those orders in early on the consumer side to make sure, because we all knew that fulfillment was going to be an issue. And I think UPS and USPS and others were really promoting that, like order early, get ready. Don't wait until December 24th and expect your order to arrive on your door before Christmas morning. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we were surprised to see that Prime Day was so high, especially because it was so early in the season, but definitely interesting data there.
And so much later than usual. I thought it was really
Hmm.
surprising to put Prime Day that close to the holiday dates, but
Yeah,
I'm hearing from a lot of different sellers that it worked out fine for them. So just goes to show. Although I think that Prime Day also yielded a lot of results in Amazon specific products because there
yes.
were a lot of really great deals on Amazon products. So
I think
that
everyone I know bought a
probably does
Ring
it.
doorbell
Yeah, that is the
system this
thing,
year. That
isn't
was a
it?
big one. Yeah.
Raise your hand if you've got a Ring doorbell at your house. I'm just curious. Yeah, a lot of you do. It's handy, especially I don't know if you've got Nextdoor in your area, but that's like the place to show your Ring videos because everybody's trying to keep everybody safe and all that kind of stuff. All right, are we ready for the next slide?
We are.
All right. So I can't ever host Becky without having her talk a little bit about reviews. You guys know that reviews impact everything. They impact your visibility. They impact, uh, a lot of times they impact your conversion rate. They impact uh, your success. Like that's the bottom line. And they're still super important. And somebody did ask if there's any insight on why we can't respond to reviews anymore. And Becky is going to cover that in this section. So just hold tight on that. Um, and Ryan, I see your comment and I do want to talk about that because I think that that's something that everybody needs to hear about. So we'll do that in the Q&A section. But first I want Becky for you to give a little bit of advice on now, you know, Q4 is over, but you still have to start going after those reviews. You still have to be monitoring reviews. So why don't you take us through that?
Sure.
And
So you're
talk,
probably wondering,
sorry,
sorry, talk about what?
this is cool. So you guys took a look at the peak weeks for Amazon reviews. So before you
Hmm.
get into strategy, let's go over this because I forgot this was here. Sorry.
Sure. So I think one of the big takeaways when it comes to reviews is that you need to be asking for them all the time, and we'll get into that a little more in the presentation. Um, but here in our peak weeks for Amazon reviews, we've got the order volume is that green line, and the number of reviews is shown in the bar graph. And as you can see, the top week for reviews was actually the first week of Q1, which is not surprising if you look at, you know, people got gifts for Christmas and they probably left reviews. And I suspect, based on my own experience, because a lot more of us were not traveling and sending more gifts online this year than we normally would. Like a lot of times I buy things from Amazon and wrap them for my nieces, but this year I mailed them from Amazon to my nieces. So I think there was a lot more interaction from gift giving, at least in my experience. It seemed like people kind of savored it more and they called me and said, hey, we really love this, or, you know, sent pictures of the gift in use. And I think that that translated to a really good trend with reviews, because I think that buyers were finding that their gift recipients were really happy, and that obviously, you know, that combined with getting an email from you saying, hey, please leave me a review on Amazon. They're like, oh yeah, Uncle Mike really loved those slippers. So yeah, I'll give it 5 stars. And Amazon has really made it a lot easier to give reviews and ratings. So now the buyer can actually just click on the star rating, and that gives you a rating on Amazon. And then they can also choose to do a written review where they actually go into the details of their experience with the product. But I've definitely noticed a lot more ratings. So it seems like that really simplified system is working a lot better for a lot of buyers.
Well, and Becky,
So,
this is a question that I have. I know that when I was paying a lot of attention to this particular space, Amazon hadn't quite figured out if there was a weight difference between a rating and a
mhm,
written review. So like when you go to an ASIN on Amazon and you click on the ratings and reviews, you'll see that there are X amount of star ratings, but there might only be consider like there are 1,000 star ratings, but there are 700 reviews. And it
mhm,
seems like the stars are what matter. And obviously the content of the
right.
review matters in terms of like if there are those like big red flag words or something like that. But in terms of just the stars associated with a written review and the stars associated with just a star rating, they're weighed the same by Amazon.
Right. Yeah, we haven't seen anything to make us believe otherwise. Which is
Okay.
interesting. I think that verified purchase reviews and buying reviews and some of those other like special reviews still have different weighting in the algorithm, but a rating versus a written review doesn't seem to make a difference.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it's Amazon, so it could change. But
It could change.
well, this is really interesting, and I think it's encouraging too. I think consumers as a whole are more aware that they need to leave reviews. I
Hmm.
know that when I worked with you guys, we used to say that happy customers don't leave reviews because they don't have anything to say, but the unhappy people will certainly speak up. But I think that nowadays people understand that even if they don't understand how it impacts the seller, they understand how it impacts buyers. So
Right.
if they've had a great experience with something, they want to say, "Hey, I had a great experience with this." And if they had a terrible experience, they want to say, "Hey, beware because I had a
Hmm.
terrible experience with this." Or I think I got a fake one, which is a red flag to the seller that they need to look into that too. So I think that
Right.
consumers have gotten more savvy about how Amazon works. At least I hope
Right.
so. I mean, we've been out here beating that drum for years now. So hopefully, hopefully they get it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this because I love this graphic, by the way.
Yeah. So basically, the quality and the quantity and the recency of your review all contribute to its success and the way that Amazon views your reviews. And I'm sure Liz can get into it a little bit later, but you don't want to be advertising a product that has 2-star reviews on Amazon, for example. And your reviews do impact the success of your product in Amazon's search algorithm, in the way that your ads convert. Everything that you do kind of comes back to your reviews. They're really the bread and butter for a lot of businesses, particularly if you're a brand. I mean, um, I probably shouldn't be saying this because I don't think Amazon loves it, but I was going to purchase a product earlier from a local business and then went to Amazon to look at the reviews because I trust Amazon reviews more than I trust, just searching Google for this can opener to see if other people liked it. It's like, wait, what do Amazon sellers have to say? So people really, I mean, I know a lot of people that rely on Amazon as like their go-to source when they're looking for a product. Um, so yeah, we found a study by Bright Local that was done back in 2019, and they actually found that 84% of consumers believe that online reviews that are older than 3 months are not relevant. Um, so I think, especially if you have a newer product or something that changes a lot, it's really important to have those fresh reviews from people that are saying what their experience was and how they perceive your product.
That's a bummer about perception of older reviews because I've written some really comprehensive reviews in my past. And
But
I know
if you get helpful votes, you might be top of the page.
I have
Also, I
mixed
think
feelings
every
about
review counts.
I have mixed feelings
Yeah,
about the helpful votes. I was working with a brand the other day, and they had a ridiculous amount of helpful votes on a negative review that was obviously not real. And I
yeah,
was like, "Have you talked to Amazon about this?" And they said, "Yeah." And Amazon says there's nothing they can do about it. And I'm like,
yeah.
"Yet, yet. Hopefully, hopefully soon."
Yeah.
All right. So, how
So,
can you get more reviews? I know that that's a big question, and I think we've got some questions in here
yeah,
that let's hit them after this slide because they relate to up and up ways to get reviews, how people are getting reviews, etc. But I do want you to talk about
sure.
the request a review button.
Yeah, so Amazon updated the communication guidelines back in November, and you may have attended the conversation that Liz and I had about that. Um, so they said in those communication guidelines that you can request feedback or reviews on Amazon or from Amazon buyers, but there are three main ways to do that. So you can either send a message through buyer seller messaging from Seller Central. You can go to Seller Central, go to your order details page, and click on the request a review button. Both of those tend to be really time consuming. They don't have much payoff, honestly. I think the review rate is something like 1 to 10% per request. Like the payoff for requesting reviews is not very good. So a lot of sellers automate their review requests, and you can find apps like Feedback 5 and the Amazon App Store that have been vetted by Amazon. We work with Amazon to make sure that everything that we do is on the up and up with what they want us to do. And you can automate those requests. Feedback 5 actually allows you to either automate buyer seller messaging, which does allow you some customization. So if you have like a really specific ASIN that you want like an awesome message about, I know Liz and I both work with Shannon Roddy, and he has some clients that just have killer review requests because they really bring some story into it and they make it interesting for the buyer when they receive it. So you can have those brand specific requests with buyer seller messaging, but you do need to be aware that you need to be following the Amazon communication guidelines. You need to follow all of Amazon's product review policies. I will make sure that Liz gets those out to you because there are like 4 different pages in Seller Central that you'll want to check out. And if you ever have any questions about reviews, like I said, Liz is giving out my email. You can always contact Ecom Engine. That's really what we do. We really try to help sellers be as compliant as possible. And we really try to make sure that we know everything that Amazon wants you to do when it comes to requesting reviews and feedback inside and out. So we're here. Like, we don't care if you're a customer or not. We're more than happy to talk to you. But you can also automate, you can schedule automation for the request a review message with Feedback 5. Which saves you a lot of time because obviously going to every single order in Seller Central is just a mess. And Liz is helpfully pointing out my message over there. So this message is automatically translated into the buyer's language of preference, which is something else that changed with the communication guidelines. So with Feedback 5 for the buyer seller messages, we actually have a way to send this message if your message is not in that language. But the request to review messages are always instantly translated. It includes the product image, and then, you know, it's got a really nice review rating up there, and then a really nice feedback rating right underneath it. And we've actually seen positive reviews going up with this message, which I think is interesting. I think that sellers really identify with seeing that it comes from Amazon directly. And I think when they see that in their inboxes, they take it a little more seriously and they open it and leave a review. So it's working.
So also, didn't Amazon say no more photos of the product in the buyer seller messaging? So that's
Yes.
kind of huge, right? Because way back when you couldn't put an image, a product image in buyer seller messaging, it was a big deal when you could, right? Because somebody gets the email, they see the image that they bought.
Right.
It's easy. Oh, like, oh yeah, that thing. I really like that thing. 5 stars, you know. But then when Amazon said, yes, you can use buyer seller messaging to request reviews. However, no emojis and subject lines, no image of the product, you know, a whole lot of don't mix fonts.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, the guidelines.
There's a whole list. And I'll send out a link to the last webinar that Becky and I did together that will give you kind of like an overview of what those rules are. But the cool thing about the request to review is that it has that picture of the item in it. And what I've noticed, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, because I know that with Feedback 5, right, it goes out once, right? So you say, okay, hit, you know, automate request to review for my orders. It goes out, and you guys actually have some flexibility as to when it goes out. So if it's an item that takes a little longer to experience, it doesn't have to go like a couple days after the order date. It can go like, what is it, up to 30 days after the order date?
Yeah, and you can actually schedule it at the at the ASIN level. So Amazon recently changed it so that the review request has to be sent out within 30 days of order completion. So you can actually say like, oh, this is a supplement. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks for someone to actually want to leave a review. So I'm going to send it at the later end of that. But instead of trying to keep track of that and going into Seller Central and saying, oh, this person ordered 3 weeks ago, time to request a review, you can just automate all of that. So you don't have to hire someone. You don't have to do it yourself. And then Feedback 5 does also give you the ability to exclude orders, and you have a lot of options when it comes to, you know, if there's something that you don't want to send, or if you want to drill down into your reviews and your ratings. So that's something new that we're pulling in actually. I didn't put a slide in here, but we've updated our analytics and we've started pulling in ratings as well as reviews. So you can see the number of ratings for each product, which is awesome. Yeah.
Just more reasons why Feedback 5 is the best. Sorry, I mean, I'm a little biased, but I've also been around for a while, you guys, and it is absolutely the best tool to help monitor and get product reviews and seller feedback, which is still important. One thing I've noticed, and I don't know if this is just because of the holidays or what, but I've been getting the request to review email from Amazon more than once on
Hmm.
the same product, on the same order. So I
Interesting.
don't know if that is, obviously that's not the result of a tool like yours because yours is set up to send it only once. But I don't know if Amazon is going, hey, hit the button, hit the stars. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know quite what's going on, but I know for one order I placed in November, I've gotten 5 on the same order. And I know that it's coming from, it's the request a review because I know what it looks like, obviously. I was around when they rolled it
That's so
out.
strange.
Yeah, it's really weird. And then another one, I've gotten it 3 times. So I don't know what's going on with that, but and I'm obviously not leaving a review every time because I left a review the first time I got it. So I don't know, but I think Amazon's
That's a good
favoring.
point. You can also filter out those repeat buyers. So if you don't want to send Liz a request every single time she buys, shampoo from you that she buys every 3 months, you don't have to. You
Yeah,
can
I only
say,
bought it
oh,
one
Liz is a
time
repeat
from you.
buyer.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a glitch in the system or what, but I think Amazon's favoring the request to review.
Hmm.
I think definitely. Well, plus, I mean, it translated into your recipient's chosen language. That's awesome. Also includes a place
Well,
for
it
seller
creates a
feedback.
cohesive, yeah, and it creates a cohesive experience that is Amazon branded. Because I think, you were saying they have a lot of guidelines about the font and all this weird stuff, but I think it kind of comes back to it's Amazon sandbox. We're all just playing. And they kind of want to control the look and feel of communication with buyers. And this request a review message allows them to do that. And it also benefits sellers because I don't think many of you have time to just go through and, you know, make sure that your message is as compliant as possible. If you have something that's even slightly gray, I would recommend just using the request a review button. If you've ever gotten restricted, you know, certain, like if you don't follow Amazon's review rules, they take that very, very seriously, and it can actually result in your account getting restricted. So this request a review message is the easiest way to make sure that you're always following the rules.
Or suspended. I mean, I know that,
Yeah.
we talked to Chris McCabe a lot, both of us.
Hmm.
And I don't think that there's been a whole lot of reviews abuse stuff going on because people like you have been doing such a good job about educating the seller community about, like, don't do it, you'll get suspended. I know I always used to say, don't be a cowboy, it's not worth it. But
Hmm.
there are still little things that can slip you up. And it's your job as a
Right.
seller to know all the rules. So this is easy. This is a set it and forget it kind of thing. We have some questions. Does it make sense to advance one more time and then do the questions, or should we do the questions now? Because they're specifically related to requesting reviews.
Should I talk about commenting first, or are a lot of questions about commenting?
There are questions about commenting, so let's do that first. Um,
Okay.
and we'll just
Sorry,
leave this up because
that's
this is
okay.
beautiful feedback 5 and how it rolls up all your product reviews, so you don't have to go ASIN by ASIN looking at your product reviews. So that's like an awesome feature of feedback 5. So we'll just leave that up for people to see. But you guys have asked, do you have any insight on why Amazon cut off sellers from replying to reviews? What are you supposed to do now that you can't respond to negative reviews? And somebody said that they've actually seen the old comments on reviews have disappeared. So that those conversations that used to take place are gone too. Can you
Yeah.
comment on that?
Sure. So back in December, about a week and a half before Christmas, Amazon sent an email to sellers that were commenting on reviews saying that they were phasing out that review commenting system. They cited that sellers or buyers weren't really engaging with it. And I think, again, back to Shannon Roddy and some of our friends in the industry, we all had a lot of conversations when this happened. And, you know, Shannon pointed out that there was never a way for the buyer to receive a notification from the seller. So you would comment on your review back to the buyer and say, oh, I'm so sorry that you had a terrible experience. Can I help you? Or provide information. And then the seller or the tangling myself up, the buyer would never receive a notification of that. So it was like a 1 in a million chance that they would come back to their negative review to see that you had commented and then reach out to you. So I think that if Amazon had added some kind of back and forth functionality between buyers and sellers, that would have been really helpful. I was kind of surprised that they phased this out because I think that it's so important for brand management. Talking with our CEO, Jay Lagarde, he was mentioning some cases that he had seen in the past that where people were leaving comments on reviews saying, or leaving reviews saying to do things that were completely outside of what you would want people to do in terms of safety, especially with like child products. And he was saying, like in that case, the brand kind of has a responsibility to come in and say, hey, don't use our product like this. This isn't how it's intended to work. But you can't do that anymore. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that there's really a good solution, y'all. You can certainly monitor your reviews, get alerts for your negative reviews, go in and see what people are saying. Is there an issue with your packaging? Is there something that you can improve? I think it's really important to monitor your reviews both for positive and negative to see what are people talking about. I mean, you have undiluted information from your buyers. Like every marketer in the world wants exactly what you have in your product reviews. So you can use a tool like Feedback 5 to just export those and look at them regularly. You can filter them. You can look at them on Seller Central. There are tons of ways to do it, but it's really important to have that process in place. If you do get a review that is violating Amazon's community guidelines, which are different than the communication guidelines, the community guidelines do state that it can't include personally identifiable information. It can't include profane language, anything obscene, things like that. So if you get a review that's kind of nasty, you can always report it to Amazon as review abuse and cross your fingers that they'll take it down and you can keep opening cases. I don't know what the success rate is there. I've seen varied reports from sellers. Some people have had good luck, some people have not. So that is an option, but in most cases, I think you just kind of have to say, okay, there's a negative review. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to try to do whatever I can to not get more negative reviews.
I'm seeing when there's a clear violation of community guidelines, when there's profanity, when it's abusive language, especially, that Amazon's pretty good about getting rid of that almost even before the seller has to report it. I'm also seeing a little bit of success when a seller has a review on an item that clearly isn't that item, and they've gone to seller support and have said, this is clearly not my item, and seller support said, sorry, that doesn't violate community guidelines. And if you push it in a respectful way with plenty of documentation, screenshots, etc., that prove your point, then odds are Amazon is going to take it down because that creates a bad shopping experience. And that's, Amazon's customer service,
right.
First, customer obsessed. So if it's something that's going to impede someone from buying the item, that because it's incorrect, like I bought this quilt and it's a review for headphones, then
right.
you have a good chance of getting that removed too. Speaking of removal, someone said, I sell FBA and I have a few reviews related to damage during shipping, which is done by Amazon. Is there a way to remove those reviews? And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's opening a case.
Yeah, I would open a case. When it's an issue with Amazon's fulfillment experience, a lot of times they'll just strike through it and they add a sentence that says this was due to the experience with fulfillment that was provided by Amazon or something like that. I don't remember the exact language, but they won't take it away, but it no longer impacts your average rating at that point if they strike through it.
And the same with seller feedback. They'll do the same with seller feedback. But because of the increase in orders and increase in search volume, increase in everything, because of Q4, I would, if you don't see it get struck through, then I would open a case. And if you need help on knowing how to open a case with Amazon, get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with Chris McCabe because he knows all of the answers on that. Now, in terms of getting reviews, this is a great question from Paul. He says, how can some manufacturers generate 1,000 reviews on a new product within 2 months if they're on the up and up, There's no way this can be done. And you are correct. If they're on the up and up, unless their order volume is through the roof,
Hmm.
and if it's a brand new item, I don't know how it could be unless it was just the thing. And how often is something just the thing? There are still people using black hat bad actor tactics to get reviews. Becky, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, and it's a terrible idea. It's a really good way to get your listing suspended or your account suspended. I think there are a lot of ways to get reviews legitimately. So in addition to those that Amazon outlined in the communication guidelines, Amazon does have its own programs like the early reviewer program and Amazon Vine. Early reviewer is super cheap. I think it's still $60 for up to 5 ASINs. So if you've recently launched a product, that's a good way to get momentum right away. Amazon just kind of requests reviews on your behalf. And then if someone leaves a review, they actually get like a $2 or $3 Amazon credit. So I've seen a lot of sellers have success with that. I think if you have a lot of brand presence and maybe it's like a hot, like, hey, we've been working on this for 6 months and we've been teasing it on social and we've been talking about it, like maybe that's a case where they would get that many reviews. But other than that, yeah, I think Liz is right. There's probably something shady going on.
And I have the deepest hope. Amazon really cares about reviews. Otherwise, they wouldn't be
Yes.
so hard on you guys about breaking any rules. But they're reluctant to be hard on the people who are actually leaving reviews because those people are customers, right? So there's a balance that needs to be struck, and it hasn't been struck yet. There are still people getting away with bad actor behavior. It's benefiting them in the short term, but in the long term, I really believe that Amazon's going to crack down, just like they did in 2016 with the incentivized review thing. They
Yeah.
took away a lot of those reviews that were okay. They were okay to happen before, but then they weren't okay. And Amazon actually analyzed reviews and took away the ones that they thought gave an unfair balance to that ASIN. So that's scary, but it's also encouraging at the same time because Amazon wants it to be a fair marketplace. They want it to be a place where people can look at reviews and actually learn about the product before they buy it. So I'm hoping, I have every hope. I just did a webinar with Cynthia Stein, and she has a book coming out called Dirty Seller Tricks. And part of the thing is review manipulation. And the helpful votes thing is something that I'm seeing a lot. So it's not so
Hmm.
much people leaving a whole bunch of fake negative reviews. It's not so much people like piling on they've used a review bot to pile on 1,000 positive reviews on an ASIN within 2 months. But they're sneaky and they're doing those helpful votes. We
Hmm.
did have somebody ask related to that. Where is it? This was a really good question. Hal asked this question. Is there anything you can do to alter the order of the most helpful reviews? Like the way they show up? Is it against Amazon policy to encourage people to vote to upvote a review? Is that against Amazon policy to ask people to do that?
Yes. Yes.
Of course it is.
Yeah, anything related to your products, your friends, your family members, your employees, like they shouldn't be leaving reviews. I saw someone in a forum earlier was saying that they had gotten a review manipulation or some kind of case from Amazon saying that they were doing something shady, and it turned out that their like in-laws had bought something from their Amazon store and left a review, and then Amazon saw that and was like, hey, no, no, no. So they take that really seriously. It is creepy the amount of data that they have about you and the people in your circle. Don't think that they don't know who your employees are. I'm sure they're looking at IP addresses and all of that. Um, so yeah, don't ask anyone you know to upvote your helpful product or your best product reviews.
Just like you
That's
wouldn't
not a
ask
good idea.
anybody to leave
Um,
a review for you.
right. In
I
terms
think
of changing that ranking, I don't think that there's a whole lot that you can do, and Liz might have some ideas there.
the thing is that what I've seen and what I still recommend to people when I talk to them about reviews, which obviously like isn't the space where I live anymore, but I send people with Ecom Engine and say, help them get reviews, because you have a better chance of getting more reviews on your ASIN if you ask for reviews in a compliant way, right?
Right.
So it's not a silver bullet. It's not like a magic wand. But if you've got negative reviews that have helpful votes, right, then you get positive reviews and people are actively coming to your listing because you've optimized your advertising. You've got your own flywheel in place, as it were, and you're getting more positive reviews. Then the hope is that those positive reviews will get helpful votes, and that will change the balance for you. And it takes time, it takes effort, it's
Mhm.
super frustrating, it's not satisfying at all. Hopefully that will change someday, but for now, your best bet is to get more positive reviews. So if you
Yeah.
see things in your reviews that indicate that there's something wrong with your listing, optimize your listing so that your listing properly reflects your product. If you see things that are talking about your product compliance, product safety, something's the wrong color, something smells funny, heed that. Talk to your supplier, talk to your manufacturer, figure out where that bad review came from. If you think it's a whole slew of fake reviews, then talk to somebody about opening a case for you. The thing is, if you open any kind of case with Amazon, if you want Amazon to do anything for you, you have to have evidence, right? So it's kind of on you to do the research. I was working with a brand the other day that said, okay, well, I have 15 negative reviews. They're worded kind of the same. I looked at the order data, and it just so happens one of the orders was merchant fulfilled. I checked the address. The address is the address of my competitor. And I
Hmm.
was like, well, in that case, send them a screenshot of all the reviews you got, point out how the wording is similar, show them the address, show them that that's your competitor's address, gather all your evidence, and then submit a case to Amazon saying, look, I suspect these 15 reviews are fake. I think they were done by my competitor. This is why I think that, please consider this. And, it worked and those reviews went away. So that's great. But sometimes you have to escalate in order to get things done. It's still not a perfect system.
Yeah.
So the person who had the fulfillment related review asked
Mhm.
where you would open your case. Would you open it on the review itself, where you can go into Seller Central and you pick that you have a review that you need to report? Is that where you would do it, Becky?
I think so. If anyone has a more effective solution, definitely pop it in the chat, but that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, if you think it's for real and it's a real buyer it's real buyers that have left this and it's a problem that's going on at FBA with the fulfillment of your item, then there needs to be a conversation about your packaging and making sure that that Amazon's handling your inventory properly. So I'm gonna provide my email address at the end of this for you who've been facing this problem. Ping me and let me help you with this problem. Um, we had a question about Vine. In your opinion, does Vine work?
I think so. I think it depends on the ASIN. Um, if you have a product that isn't really, if it doesn't have a good margin, I don't know that it's worth enrolling in Vine. I know gotten varied reports on the pricing. I think right now it's free to enroll in Vine, and
Mm-hmm.
then your product it's just the cost of your product, but it is under advertising in Seller Central. So that should tell you all that you need to know about monetizing it in the future. Um, and I know for vendors, it could be like, I think it was like $2,500 or something to enroll in ASIN at one point. So I think it's one of those your mileage may vary things. Some products have had great success with Vine and some have not. So it might depend on your category or the type of product.
I recommend usually that people take a look at Vine specific reviews because they're marked. You
Yeah,
know,
they are. And they're
I
usually
don't
towards
know
the top.
I don't know how many Vine voices are actually active right now, but if you've got a category that you see a lot of Vine voice reviews for, then I think it's worth trying out. If you've got a really like niche category and you don't feel like there have been a lot of Vine related reviews, that's probably a pretty good indication that there might not be a good match for you in the Vine voices. There's nowhere that says that. That's just like based on personal experience. I feel like that's kind of a thing you need to think about. But since the cost is nothing to you and if you've got a good margin on your products, I think it's worth a try. And I know that Ecom Engine would love to know how it worked out for you, because I think you
Yeah,
can get, what is it, up to 25 reviews you can get when you enroll your product, isn't it? Or is it 12? I don't remember. It's more than 6.
it's changed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but
And
it's
there's
very
no
dependent on those
guarantee.
fine voices because if they don't select your product, just because you enroll doesn't mean that your product will get selected to be reviewed. So it is a little bit based on the Vine voices and whether they're interested in reviewing.
We have a couple tactical questions. You guys are asking such good questions that I like kind of feel like this should have just been an Ask Me Anything, but we had cool data to show you, and I'm going to tell you about some cool data, but I'll save that for Andrew. But Michael asks, putting aside the example of supplements, is there a sweet spot for the number of days after shipment or order for sending a review request? Does your data point to a best time of day to send these requests?
This is the $1 million question. We have seen, you know, we have sellers who are all different sizes, who sell in all different categories, and it really depends on your product. I hate to say that. I know that everyone hates that answer. I think that probably between 2 to 5 days after the order is delivered is probably a sweet spot in terms of products that are used right away. So something that is going to arrive and somebody's going to open it and maybe it's consumable, or maybe it's something that, solves a problem that they're going to, like my wireless mouse. Like, okay, 2 days after I received it, I might have been ready to review it because it changed my life, honestly. But I think, yeah, things like um, anything that's got a quality kind of review to it, I think you need to wait as long as possible towards that 30 days. And I kind of hate that Amazon limits it to 30 days. I understand why they do, because they're really trying to make it relevant for the buyer, so they're not getting review requests, 6 months after they receive, you sell a duvet and they received it 6 months ago. They don't want a review request from you. They've probably forgotten that they even bought it on Amazon. But as a buyer, that's when I might be willing to review a duvet because I've spent 6 months with it and hey, I love it, or no, I don't. So I think it is kind of tricky, that 30-day timeline, especially for products that require a little bit of time before they start to work. So I hope that helps. But yeah, I think consumables that first week is probably the best time to send it.
This is a great question, and I'm just going to read it because I love it so much. If you improve a product, what's the best way to communicate that it's been improved? If now you can't go in and there are negative reviews that you can respond to say, hey, this has been improved and thank you for your feedback, how do you communicate that you have improved a product?
I think the most important thing to do is optimize your listing. Get that in your bullets, get it up there front and center, take photos, get really good images that show off the improvements. And I don't know the exact product photo guidelines, but you may even be able to have like arrows that point out new features and things like that. Definitely call it out in your listing though. Uh, Rethink your keywords, just look at it as though you're starting from scratch and really make sure that you're covering it way up at the top of your page. And then also monitor if people are asking questions about your product, make sure when you answer that you're saying, by the way, it's new and improved. And, we've done X, Y, and Z, and this is our process. And
A lot
yeah,
of
use
people
that
ignore
space.
the questions, and ideally, like I get questions all the time. I shop on Amazon a lot, and I get, is this product, made out of such and such or whatever. Um,
Right.
like I shouldn't be able to answer that question before the seller does, but
Yeah.
Amazon lets me. So if you got to keep a really close eye on those questions that come in, because you can really address a lot of concerns and a lot of worries and solve a lot of like decisions if you answer those questions, and you can as a seller. So that is something you can do to communicate not with a particular buyer, but with all potential buyers, because a lot of
Right.
people read those questions. I know that we're running on time. We do have a 2 o'clock hard stop. If you didn't get your question answered today, I have kept a list of the questions. I'm going to share the questions with Becky, and we're going to answer your questions. So don't worry about that. But we do have a webinar coming up this Thursday on product images, optimized listings, all that kind of stuff. So if you have questions about optimizing your Amazon or Walmart listing for conversion, I'll send a link in the email to you guys to help you register for that. Also, there's another question about my biggest issue is negative brand reviews that occur due to unauthorized resellers that I've not been able to shut down yet. Jeff, I'm doing a webinar later with Joe Kovacs from BrandGuard. That's his whole deal, is that he finds the unauthorized sellers and he helps remove those. So there's services that you can get. I recommend Joe. So please, you can contact him ahead of time. You can contact me to get in touch with him. I'll introduce you, but get those unauthorized resellers off of there. And there might be some sort of recourse you can take with Amazon, in that they were unauthorized resellers. They might not have packaged your item properly. You can dig into that and do the research on that. I think we've kind of, like, through example, explained why you should monitor your reviews, right? Do you have anything
Yeah.
else you want to say about that?
No.
All right, cool. All I'm gonna say, I was gonna get into some data that we did, but Andrew's gonna do it next week. So it was an unprecedented year, and that yields unprecedented data. So across categories, daily search volumes on Amazon increased during Cyber Week, a lot of cases by more than 2 times, but these figures were down significantly when compared to the volume increases we saw during the same period of 2019. It's because more people are shopping online. In fact, the toys and games category that you mentioned before, Becky, and baby products were the only categories that were, like, right on track increase-wise year over year. But there was a really good reason for this, and the increases that a lot of sellers and brand owners expected during Cyber Week were skewed because of the unprecedented circumstances that 2020 presented, Q4 presented, COVID presented. For goodness sakes, it was such a weird year. So Andrew Weber, our director of Insights, is going to be doing a webinar and a deep dive into that data that we discovered from 2020 next week. So I'm going to pop a link to that in the, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so I can find that link. I'm going to pop a link to that in the chat so that you guys can go ahead and register for that now if you want to. So here we go in the chat. Keep an eye there. Boom. Hope to see you there. But some of you are left with questions unanswered. So I'm going to put Becky's email address in the chat right now. She will either answer your question personally, or she will send you to the right person in her organization. So Trowbridge at ecomengine.com. We both have complicated emails because mine's L Fickenscher at Teikametrics.com. I'm also putting that in the chat. If you didn't get your question answered and you've got questions, pain points, reach out to us. We'll get you to the right people, get you the right resources. We thank you so much for coming today. Becky, it's always a pleasure. I'm going to have you back as soon as humanly possible. Thank you so much. And everybody, just have a super day.
Have a great day.